Hello everyone, we are from grade 11. Today we'll be presenting about our engineering in society project with the topic of Love Canal Disaster USA 1977. Our group consists of 5 students who are Ainhoa Atira, Nomashita, Joel, Savage, and myself, Jamstick. So let me start with the introduction part. The Love Canal disaster was a 1970s crisis where the neighborhood were built over a toxic waste site, causing a serious health and environmental issues. It causes the hooker chemical brewery 21,000 tons of the hazardous waste, and it causes the residents suffer from cancer, birth defects, and chemical exposure. And lastly, it led to the creation of the CRCLA and reforms in engineering ethics and environmental policy.
Let me briefly walk you through the timeline of the Love Canal disaster. First, from the 1980s to the 1950s, the site was originally meant to be a canal, but was abandoned. It later became a dumping ground for over 21,000 tons of toxic waste by Hooker Chemical. Shockingly, the land was then sold to build homes and a school. Fast forward to the 1970s, residents began reporting serious health issues. A local mother, Louise Gibbs, mobilized the community, and in 1978, a state of emergency was declared. This led to the evacuation of hundreds of families. Finally, by 1980, the EPA confirmed the severity of the contamination, prompting a federal emergency declaration. This crisis led directly to the creation of the Superfund law, holding polluters accountable and funding hazardous site cleanups. To this day, Love Canal remains a landmark case in environmental justice and citizen advocacy.
Hello everyone, I'll be presenting the key technical and engineering issues that caused the Love Canal disaster in 1974. The first issue is inadequate waste containment design and disposal practice. Hooker Chemical dumped over 21,000 tons of toxic waste into the canal without proper liners or leachate collection system. They relied only on natural clay and uncertified cape, which eventually failed. This allowed toxins to leak into the environment. The second issue is hydrological failures and lack of groundwater control. No groundwater modeling or drainage systems were implemented. In 1977, melted snow caused the water table to rise above the landfill, forcing chemicals to the surface and into residential areas. The third issue is engineering negligence during site redevelopment. Homes and a school were built directly over the landfill, and no environmental risk assessment were carried out, and construction activities damaged the cape. This exposed waste and worsening the spray. This failure shows how ignoring basic engineering principles can lead to catastrophic consequences for public health and safety. Thank you.
Now we will move on to the ethical reasons that contributed to the Love Canal tragedy. The first ethical failure was the failure to prioritize or neglect of public health and safety. Hooker Chemical Company buried over 21,000 tons of toxic waste at the site, which was later sold and developed into homes and a public school. Despite this known history, engineers involved in the development failed to ensure that the land was safe for residents. Even if they were responsible for the original dumping, they had a duty to investigate and advocate for public protection. This violated the core engineering principle of placing public safety above all other interests. Next, we consider the failure to challenge unethical decision. Hooker Chemical Company sold the land with only a vague legal disclaimer, despite knowing it was hazardous. If engineers were consulted, they should have refused to support the development without full environmental evaluation. Instead, under pressure from employers or institutions, they complied. Engineering ethics demand that we speak out when safety is compromised, even if it means resisting powerful clients or risking our job. The last issue was a serious lack of supervision. There were no soil tests, no groundwater studies, no proper evaluation at all before construction began. If engineers were involved, they failed to demand this assessment, and if non-engineers made decisions, they should have been closely supervised by qualified professionals. So, the Love Canal tragedy proved that how the absence of professional oversight can lead to irreversible harm.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Ainhoa Atira and I will be presenting the recommendations to prevent future failure. Firstly, engineers must enforce Environmental Impact Assessments, also known as EIA. According to National Environmental Policy Act, EIAs should thoroughly assess environmental risk before any development begins. Engineers must ensure that these assessments are completed to avoid harm to the communities. Secondly, hazardous waste management also must be strengthened. Under the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, engineers must ensure that hazardous waste is properly handled and monitored. Engineers also should intervene if there is any unsafe practices occur to protect the public health. Lastly, development on contaminated land should be prohibited unless full clean-up has been verified. Engineers must use their judgment to reject any project that risks community safety or environmental integrity. By following these steps, this will help us to prevent future environmental disasters like Love Canal.
In conclusion, in our presentation today, we'll talk about the discussion of the topic where the toxic dumping at Love Canal led to the health crisis, public outcry, and the creation of the Superfund law. Secondly, we'll talk about the technical and engineering issue, which includes the poor waste containment, hydrological failure, and engineering negligence. And thirdly, we'll talk about the ethical reasons for failure, which includes the failure to prioritize the public safety, compliance with ethical demands, and inethical solution. And last but not least, we have some recommendations to prevent future failure, which includes enforce EIAs, strengthen hazardous waste management, and prohibit development on contaminated land. And that's all for our presentation today. Thank you for listening.